uwager.lv, sportsbook, and casino. Sign up today at uwager.lv, the premier online sportsbook, taking wagers since 1998. The most player-friendly lines, weekly juice specials, and a true dime line in MLB. Unique casino platforms with thousands of games. Play poker, high stakes, low stakes, or tournament play. uwager.lv, what we offer. Free same-day payouts. Customer service and wagering support, 24/7, year-round. Free monthly rebates on your action and daily casino rebates. Contests, free bets, best bonuses, and giveaways. Generous referral program. Get an 80% free play bonus on your first deposit, up to $1,000. Sign up today, and use promo code SPORTSWEB. Remember, you can't win if you don't play.
going on, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Evolution of Sports Talk Television on a Monday night here live on I Love St. Pete, the hub and Amped Up Sports. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. And how do we start off this show as we always do on Monday and Wednesday nights? Or if you have breaking news, you never know when the Sports Web is coming at you. Bring your passion, bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. On tonight's show, we'll have the great L. Bushman, Mr. Evan Bush from the Rays Rewind podcast. This will be his first time on the Sports Web, which I can't believe we haven't got this guy on before because his tech is great and he definitely knows what he's talking about when talking about the Tampa Bay Rays, who, by the way, should have swept that series versus the New York Yankees, but are still 31-11. Not bad. Even with all the injuries, this team has had 8 pitchers on the IL already. Drew Rasmussen, the latest one. So we'll get into that with Mr. L. Bushman. And then at 9:35, we'll have Powers on Sports Podcast. Mr. Jason Powers talking about what else? The Bucs schedule. Still got that question out there. You look at the schedule out there, Bucs fans. What do you think about it? What's the win total? I can tell you that there's nothing but negativity when it comes to the national media and pundits out there. And of course, we always talk gambling on this show because my co-host usually is joined with me here, Harry the Greek. There's a story out there that the Bucs are actually only favored in 1 game this year out of 17. So we'll get into that. We'll get your thoughts. I've seen it on Facebook. I go to the Facebook websites, of course. It's not looking too good from you fans, from the fan standpoint. And then, of course, we'll always take your phone calls. 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391 in case you can't get in on that number. 727-409-7528. Again, 727-409-7528. Really don't have an intro for this man, so I'm just going to go ahead and get the Rays horn on. Here we go. All right, Mr. L. Bushman, welcome to the Evolution of Sports Talk Television, of course, of the Rays Rewind podcast. And I can't believe this. This is actually your first time on the Sports Web. Well, what's going on here? I need to do better than this.
You know what? You don't need to do better. You have me on now, so that's all that matters. So.
Well, there you go. And I tell you right now, let's start off with the Tampa Bay Rays. And I came in saying, you know what? And I think a lot of fans felt this way. If you don't blow that game on Friday night, which, again, this is a team that's fighting for their collective lives because they're in last place. But if you don't blow that on Friday night, you most likely have that win with Josh Lowe, which, by the way, somebody has to explain to me why Kevin Cash took him out of the game. I get it. Matchups. We'll get into that. And then you have a 6-0 lead with McClanahan on the mound, and you blow that. You could have had at least 3 out of 4 or a sweep from the New York Yankees. But just give me your general thoughts of not only this weekend series, but this overall team in 2023. Welcome to the Evolution.
Pete, thanks for having me on. I know it's been a long time. We've crossed paths many times, but only through like Facebook and Twitter and all that. Now I'm on the show. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, it's been, I think above expectations, I think for everybody, because going into the season, obviously last year didn't really end on a great note in the playoffs, getting bounced out in the first round, but now coming in seemingly almost a perfect team. And I just got done recording a new episode of the Rays Rewind podcast, which you can find tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., posted on Spotify and Anchor.fm and the Believe Podcast Network, by the way.
Nice.
It's been just almost a breath of fresh air with this team because this team is playing like exciting baseball. And I think everybody's used to the Rays being exciting, but like this year's different, I think, all the way around. Not even just the team itself, but the atmosphere of the Trop has been different. The way the team has been marketed has been different. Like everything is different and a different feel to it. And it's been so welcoming and a breath of fresh air. And I'll say that again because this is now, look, people are coming to the games. Like the games are like, it's Peter. I don't know. It's weird because we usually every year it's that conversation. Oh, the Rays, that nobody comes to the games. Like, people are coming to the games now. Like, people are actually showing up on like weekdays, not just weeknights. So I think so far the team has really been blowing the top of expectations and really getting that notice in the national media, which I think the Rays have really been that underdog each year when it comes to getting national attention. You got clowns up in New York with the fans just saying, Taylor Walls? Who is it? Yeah,
Walls. The guy
Walls.
gonna go grant. Walls. It sounds like Jim Mora. Mora all over again. And I wanted to get into that. What did you think of those comments from Evan Roberts and Craig Carton, who
by the way, when a guy that shares my name says those types of things, we stricken those from Evans all the way around. It's basic New York clown media where it's, when their teams are doing bad, they have to find some ways to, make up excuses on why their teams are doing bad. And this is what they do is like, the Rays are cheating. We're finding ways to cheat, and this is why we're doing so good. It's like, no, this team is managed well. The front office has put in pieces together and made great trades the past few years about bringing in top-notch players and homegrown players to bring up too as well. So, if that might be cheating, then I guess that's cheating too. It's typical New York media, man. This is what you expect from these guys that have nothing else positive to say about their team. So they have to go find out ways to bring viewers to their stations by saying clown hot takes like that, like the Rays are cheating. It's ridiculous, man. And for guys like that have been in the business a long time, they should just be ashamed of themselves for saying things like that, because that's a huge accusation too. If you're saying a team is cheating, like that's on the level of the Houston Astros cheating, the Chicago Black Sox cheating back, and even the Boston Red Sox a few years ago.
Red Sox, yeah.
So that's it. If you're gonna say something like that, you better have something to prove. You better have something to say. Okay, well, we just said they're cheating. Here are accusations. This is what we got. So right now they don't have anything, and they're not going to have anything at all. So just a bunch of clowns saying clown things, wearing clown noses and wearing clown shoes.
A bunch of bozos there in New York. We're on the Sports Web with Mr. Evan Bushman right here, El Bushman as they call him. I call it Evan Bush because I saw you on LinkedIn, and I was like, who is that? Oh, that's El Bushman of the Rays Rewind podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Peter Blake of the Sports Web Live on I Love St. Pete, Amped Up Sports, and the Hub. Go back to that series versus the Yankees. Do you think there was definitely a missed opportunity for them to sweep it?
Yeah, I definitely. We just talked about this on my show, and I would have taken three out of the four. Sweep would have been nice too as well, especially in the Bronx. But I think with Friday night's game, with that, Cash outcashed himself, I think, to say, because I know they always go back to the analytics and the matchups are great, like you said before the show. But when you have a hitter like Josh Lowe hitting the way he's been hitting, it almost made me frustrated to think about when he pulled Blake Snell in the World Series, how well Blake Snell was pitching against the Dodgers, and you pull him and then they end up losing the game. It's almost like you're doing the things that
my face.
Yes, you're doing the things that frustrates the fans the most, is you're like not making the moves that we want you to make. And when you have a hot hitter like that, put him in the lineup. And you have a guy that's struggling so bad. And I said this on my show. It's like there might have to be a time where the Rays should say, look, Bilal, we might have to send you down to Durham for a couple of weeks just to get your head right. No pressure. We want you to work on your mechanics just to get you back to way we all know and love you, where you can hit 30 dingers and be that guy, the dog, as I say, that the guy can be. But it's just too reliant on analytics, man. That game, just like the Saturday game too, where it was almost like a Back to the Future moment. It's like, hey, they had a 6-0 lead against us, and we came back on their best starting pitcher. So it was almost like a flip flop, which was kind of funny. I was like, that's karma's a B, maybe, because we did that to them in their house, and it was funny. It was funny to me almost. I wasn't frustrated by it. It was almost like comical. It was like, oh, hey, we gave up we had a grand slam in that game, and then we give it up. So it was almost like, okay, we might have had that coming. But yeah, it was a frustrating series. I'm fine with a split, especially to the Yankees. And look, every single team in the AL East is above 500. And they're all going to be gunning for a playoff spot. And not everybody's going to make it, like we've seen in prior years. I mean, the Rays are, as of right now, they're going to run away with that AL East crown. Knock on wood, they're going to keep it all the way to the end. But, it's going to be a dogfight in this division. The Orioles are sneaky good. The Toronto Blue Jays, of course, they give the Rays problems all the time, every time we play them with their lineup and their pitching staff. So, this past weekend it's one of those it's one of those weekends against the Yankees where we're not gonna see them again until I think after the All-Star break.
Wow.
So we play them 13 times instead of the regular 17, 18 times. So this is it until I think after the All-Star break. So it's going to be a while till we see them again.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting. Those clowns up there in New York, they the two players that basically killed them in this series, namely Yandy Diaz, who's been killing it all year long, another grand slam, and you got Taylor Walls, who had one on Sunday, which once again, the Rays had to hold on. And I go back to that start on Saturday with McClanahan. You need your ace to go out there and pitch some innings, especially with the loss of Drew Rasmussen, which we'll get back to in a moment. And you don't get that, and you use up your bullpen. But talk about Diaz, talk about Walls, and how they performed this year, because I definitely think not only Josh Lowe, but both of those players have been very, very surprising.
Let's bring in the conversation too with Randy Arozarena, who should be the he should be the MLB MVP right now. Like with everything he's doing to make look, and if you probably don't agree with what he does with the crossing of the arms when he hits a home run, I think it's great. He's been doing that since the WBC. Keep it going, man. It's making the game fun. For all you get off my lawn old guys that don't like it, well, then this is the evolution of the MLB, and this is how it's going to be from now on. You're going to have guys that are going to make a show out of it, and that's what Major League Baseball is. It's entertainment. It should be a show, and I welcome it. So let's bring him in the conversation. Even Wander Franco. I mean, you have Yandy Diaz, Randy Arozarena, Wander Franco, Josh Lowe, Taylor Walls. You have 5 guys that are just raking it in. And usually, the top of conversation each and every year with the Rays is the lack of offense. And right now, they are, I think, the top team in offense right now when it comes to home runs batted in, hits, like everything across the board is the Rays. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you normally don't talk about the Rays being in those offensive categories. And this year is the year where not only are they playing the small ball, but they're also playing the home run ball too, which is like almost a complete lineup, which you want, especially for a team that's gunning for a World Series and wanting to win the AL East. So it's been, I've been to a few games already, and it's been fun. It's been so much fun when, you can rely on your team to come back from a 6-0 deficit to beat the Yankees, or you come back from a 4-0 deficit or 4-3, and these guys are going to find ways to win. And that's a championship caliber team. And it's been fun to watch these guys, especially Yandy Diaz. And Yandy Diaz hasn't been really known for home runs because his elevation's been kind of more of a line drive. Now he's hitting the ball like his big pythons, like he has. I think his pythons are bigger than Hulk Hogan's now.
It looks like it. Yeah.
Which he has the elevation where he's just killing and crushing the ball. And I know I think he got activated today. He's day-to-day with that groin injury. So he'll be back probably for limited use against the Mets starting tomorrow. So probably pinch hitting or available for DH. But these guys have just, whatever they did in the offseason, it must have just, maybe they all sat him in the room and go, look, guys, hit. That's we're gonna bring in some type of Joe Boo character and just hit the ball, because I don't know what they did, Peter. I don't know what they did, because every single one, Luke Raley is hats for bats. Like Luke Raley is a guy that was raking it in the minors. He's got a roster spot. And he's been hitting home runs. And you got guys in the minors right now who are just killing it. I know Kyle Montezano, who's just been destroying the ball too, but like, where do you put him? Because there's so many guys in this lineup, besides from Brandon Lau, that have just been killing the ball. It's great, man. I love it.
It really is, and that's the thing. We're on with Bushman here of the Rays Rewind podcast here on the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about, and that's the most disappointing thing with Brandon Lau, right? We've seen it. Just a couple years removed from 39 home runs. He's a streaky hitter. We know he can hit the ball out of the ballpark. We also know it's like sometimes he's swinging a golf club at the baseball. He can't hit it out of the infield. I mean, so, and there's a lot of fans out there say, get rid of him. And I say, the Rays are invested in him. He's such a young player, but he's so streaky. He reminds me of like Nick Anderson. Remember Nick Anderson, the Orlando Magic?
I do remember Nick Anderson for the Orlando
Magic. The guy can fill it up, right? But he was so streaky to a certain degree, but any given night he could score 50, 60 points. I remember him scoring 50 points in Chicago one night, and bricks all night long with him. So it's the same type of deal. He's like a shooter. You just got to figure out where his swing at, where his swing is at. It's baseball at the end of the day. You know, you go to those.
Peter, what I say to the Facebook GMs and the Twitter GMs on, those Facebook groups and Twitter and whatnot, it's like, you guys don't know anything. Like, if you guys want him gone, that's your prerogative, man. You don't give up on a player just because he's having a bad, month and a half or so. That's the name of the game, man. That's about being in the majors. And I think what the fans and the Rays are going to do is, look, we've invested in this guy, and we're gonna roll the dice with him. He's one of our guys that we're gonna invest our time and money, and I think they need to give him time, and that's that. If he's gonna be a streaky hitter, look, I'd rather have him be on a cold streak now than being on a cold streak in the months of August, September, and October.
Oh, exactly.
I'd rather have him being a hot streak in the months that matter instead of the months that don't really matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, you talked about the offense in the offseason. I think there was a chip on their shoulder here.
Yeah.
Because you score one run versus the Cleveland Guardians, which is still tough for me to, I want to say the other word, and it's not, because we're just talking about Major League. And then on top of it, and JP Peterson pointed this out, where they had the most players in the World Baseball Classic. Do you think there was something to that, like 17 players?
Yeah, I'm always against. I've been always kind of against players doing these tournaments because they always run the risk of getting injured. We saw that with Edwin Diaz getting injured, the Mets closer. So he's done for till next year. Huh. So you roll the dice when it comes to being a part of this. And listen, I watch the WBC. It's fantastic. It's how baseball should be played on a nightly basis, with the amount of pandemonium, the amount of excitement that you get, not only from the players, but the fans too. The fans go nuts for the WBC. I mean, I don't know if like the WBC was looking at the Savannah Bananas and going, hey, I think we need to model what they do and bring it to our tournament, because it just seemed like it was just a different feel, especially with Randy Arozarena wearing a sombrero out in left field and continuing this over into the regular season. But I think, and I had my concerns with him because he was doing so well in the tournament, and then you go straight really into the regular season. It's like, can he keep this hot streak going? And he has. Yeah. And I'm like, man, like, you usually don't see that. You usually see these guys, okay, they maybe get gassed out for a little bit and be cold the first couple of months and then get going again. But a lot of these guys have really kind of stayed hot since the tournament. So, you can look at it as a good or bad thing, because it could be a good thing for these guys to get really prepped for the regular season, and then it's a bad thing where they run the risk of injury. So, I like the WBC. If a guy wants to represent his country to play in the tournament, go ahead and do it. It's fantastic baseball, thing. So I love it.
Speaking of injuries, what do you make of all these injuries to this Rays pitching staff? I mean,
can we have a year where they don't get injured? Can we just have 1 year where we have a solidified starting five rotation where none of these guys get injured?
I mean, it would be nice, right? And this is, this statistic is from John Morrissey, who says, for generations, we were told the best starting rotations provide large quantities of innings. The Rays are testing this again. The starters have combined to throw 187 innings this year, the fewest in the American League. So make some sense of it. We continue to have these arm injuries over and over again. You have to feel bad for Springs because he's pitching at a Cy Young level and also coming off a new contract. And also you have to feel bad for Drew Rasmussen, who's already had 2 Tommy John surgeries and possibly now with this injury. And they're going to give him 60 days, probably 8 weeks to see if they can build it up and bring him back, because that would be huge for this pitching rotation. But if not, you're talking about, a third Tommy John surgery, and basically his career is in doubt. Makes some sense to yourself.
Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow. I got to actually see Jeffrey Springs pitch as a media person credentialed for the Rays during spring training, and he was mowing down people. Like, his stuff was just, and this was during spring training. His stuff was electric, and to have him go out that early was kind of like, oh man, here we go. What a guy that's especially a big left-hander like that. It's like, man, we needed that guy in the lineup, and then Drew goes down. It's like, what is going on? And it's very frustrating because these guys have pitched so, like, Drew pitched so well the other night against the Yanks, and then after he gets pulled, and then all of a sudden the next morning it's like, oh yeah, he's on the 60-day IL. It's like, whoa. I did the Scooby-Doo thing, Pete. And I was like,
I tell you what, hold that thought. Let's go out to the phone lines here. A big time Rays fan Alex Nunster from Raise Up Facebook site giving away free tickets. You're on with yours truly, along with the great L. Bushman. What do you have to say here with your Rays 31-11 going into that Mets series tomorrow night? Alex.
Okay, I'm here. I'm actually, I kid you not, I'm listening to you guys on the computer and I'm listening to the phone call, so I'm sorry.
It happens.
Good to have somebody with some Rays knowledge in here. It's about time.
Well, we try to get Tampa Bay Ray, but I think this relationship right here is definitely going to be beneficial for both parties because he does a Rays podcast. We need to talk more Rays baseball. I feel like we do because it's been strictly Bucks. We need to add some Rays and of course, the Lightning. So we're definitely going to have him on here. But give me your thoughts here about that series. Were you disappointed, Alex?
Yeah. So I got to say it is extremely apparent that, we definitely have a lot of bullpen issues. I'll tell you, I got a lot of laugh on my page. And again, I'll announce my page before I hang up tonight. But the look on Jason Adams' face.
Priceless. That should be a T-shirt that should be worn at the Trop every single game.
Oh, it should be. Because you thought it was gone. You thought Aaron Judge, just basically tied the game up or won the game. And Jason, he's been through it this year. He really has. So it's been up and down for him.
Yeah, but you guys were just talking about some pitching, and I think you guys hit a lot of it on Dead Point. It's just so unfortunate. I think we have, in my personal opinion, some training staff issues inside the locker room. That's just my personal opinion. I mean, I get it. A lot of people are saying, maybe it's the pitch clock. I don't think it's the pitch clock for the Rays because you gotta go back to the last few years. The Rays have always had, the same injuries every year. I mean, look at Glass now. He can't even get through spring training pitching batting practice without missing some decent time. I gotta say on the pitching end, it's so unfortunate. It really is unfortunate.
I mean, tell me, why is it happening to the Rays? Why is it happening to so many pitchers around Major League Baseball, but especially this team? Because I read that number off. And they use the bullpen a lot. They're not using their starting pitching. So why is it happening to these guys? Or is it just at the end of the day, just bad luck, just dumb luck at this point?
You know what? It's quite the conundrum to figure it out too, because I'm looking back at the histories of the Rays, pitching staffs, and I'm going back to like James Shields and David Price and the Scott Kazmirs, the Matt Garzas of the world. And those guys, they pitched into the 8th or 9th innings when they were in the rotation. And now that I think maybe the game has maybe evolved so much since those days are long gone, and those long gone days aren't that far behind us. But I don't, maybe it could be training staff issues. Maybe it could be just the overworked arms. Maybe it's the pitch clock. Maybe it's just a combination of the things, but it just seems to happen a lot more with the Rays, which is even more frustrating to look at it from an outsider's in, because you don't really have an answer for it. It's like, why is so many of these Rays pitchers getting injured? Why are so many of them getting injured, especially like during like the beginning of the year or like during the end of the year? Why are they getting why a lot of these guys are getting injured?
So you don't think it has anything to do with inside the locker room on the training staff end? Because I get that question a lot.
I don't know, because looking at Kyle Snyder as a pitching coach, I mean, he's doing a fucking bang up job. I'm sorry if I dropped the M-bar.
That's all right. That's all right.
So, if it's the training staff, then I think what Cash and Stu Sternberg and Eric Neander need to do is I would maybe march down there as like, guys, what is going on? What are you guys doing that's affecting their arms so much that each and every year our pitchers are dropping like flies? I can't even remember what year was the last time we had a solidified starting 4 or starting 5 Rays pitchers where none of them got injured throughout the year and we're good to go for the whole year. Like, it's been a while since we've seen that, because we've gone through the opener project. We've gone maybe a 2-man or a 3-man rotation, but we've never really had a front 4 or front 5. It's been a while. So I don't know. It could be an inside issue where maybe they're just overworking these guys, or the training staff is maybe massaging them too hard. I don't know. Maybe put some extra icy hot on it. I don't know. It's quite the question mark when it comes to that question, because I would like to know, because I would like our big time pitchers to be there for the long haul, and we need them for the months coming up. But I look at it this way too. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with Drew. I mean, obviously, we want the best for him to come back after the 8 weeks and be at least like 95% healthy to go the rest of the way. Glass now, I'm so iffy with him because coming back from an oblique injury, he could tweak that sometime during his ramp up when he comes back in the rotation too as well. So it's just kind of like, man, you kind of have to hold your breath when Tyler Glasnow gets on the mound. And we were talking about this on the Rays Rewind podcast, which will be on tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Spotify and Anchor.fm and also the Believe Podcast Network. What can they do? Obviously we have Taj Bradley. We've got Yanni Chirinos. Those guys can fill in. Josh Fleming's kind of like a wild card. He's kind of like the Wish version of Rick Vaughn, where he's got the glasses on, but he's so inconsistent. He's like a roller coaster when you don't know which guy you're gonna get. So we have arms in place.
Ball 4, ball 8, ball
Yeah.
12. How can so many players lay off so many close pitches?
I know.
Major League, man. You're quoting Major League. You're talking my language, my friend.
So yes, we have some arms there, but they're not the arms that we want to have in there in the rotation. So it's going to be, these next months are the gauntlet months. May, June, July. That's the summer months where everything really counts. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Alex, go ahead.
Hey, Peter, would you mind if I ask him a few more questions?
Sure,
Evan,
go ahead.
I kid you not. Evan, I kid you not. I've been calling the sports web every week. And the fact that we got somebody that knows Rays baseball, this is the most exciting time ever.
Well, you're welcome.
We're going to work on it, Alex. I'm working on it, my friend.
Yo,
We got you,
good.
too.
I love Peter, bro. He's one of the best, man. No, but anyway, a couple more questions, if you don't mind, guys.
Sure.
Evan, 2 questions. A comment and then 2 questions. First of all, I want to say kudos to this entire lineup. The reason why I say that is because you were just talking about the beginning of the show that you ended basically a playoff game or playoff series for whatever. I mean, we got shut out in a 7
one run,
One
GD run for God's sakes.
But
Another
amazing,
line.
I think though what's amazing about it, and people don't see that, is these are the same guys. We have nobody new on this lineup. We got rid of, in my personal opinion, I think we got rid of what I thought was team bad luck. What I mean by that is a guy like KK. I thought KK was hurting the lineup. He's over there at the Blue Jays doing better. I'm happy for KK. I think that was better for him as an individual, not for the Rays.
You know what, Alex? You know what it is? It's steroids, because the Rays are cheating, and that's what it is. It's steroids. That's why this whole lineup is better.
That's what it is. Juice baseball on the pitching clock. I think some of it's the rules too. And a lot of people thought it would hurt the Rays, and it's actually helped them to a certain degree, and it's helped all Major League Baseball. That's what it was supposed to do here, Evan, is the reason why you have the clock and the reason why you don't have the shift in the first place is to encourage offense, and it's definitely helped the Rays out at the end of the day.
On a good end, though, talking about the lineup, I'll tell you one thing. I want to talk about 2 guys, Taylor Walls and Josh Lowe.
Yep.
Josh Lowe.
We talked about that pre-show. We actually talked about it on my show too as well. Like these 2 guys, like you said, Alex, these guys are the same guys that were in the lineup last year. What total 180s they have done to like just come out of nowhere and just crush the ball. I know Taylor Walls put in so much work in the offseason just to say, hey, I'm going to earn my roster spot. I'm going to earn it. And he, look, to the window, to the walls, man. That grand slam over the weekend was for all the mothers out there that were Rays fans. So, and especially with Josh Lowe, man, that dude is, to me, he is just a big stick, and he's shown that so far. And just whatever they did in the offseason has worked out so well. And I said this too on my podcast, and I'm plugging like there's no tomorrow too as well. But, with the exception of Brandon Lau, the offense isn't going anywhere. Like nobody is struggling. Nobody else is really struggling except for Brandon Lau. And that's such a, it's a good and a bad thing where a lot of these guys can pick up the slack where some of these guys aren't. And it's solely on B Lau. So with the guys that you wouldn't expect to have the offense like Walls and Lowe, they're there. Like Bethancourt, Siri, these guys are there to pick up the slack where a lot of the guys that we thought, or the guy that we thought was going to maybe put up another 30 home runs isn't. So
I know for a lot of people, the Brandon Lau situation is so frustrating, and I get it, and I do get it. But I think there's two things I have an issue with. I don't have an issue with Lau because I think at the end of the day, everybody's going to have their struggles. There's going to be a day where, you know, 1 week you're going to have Josh Lowe hit 5 bombs for the week example. I'm just using an example. And then next week he may hit nothing.
Yep.
I believe in my heart that Brandon Lau is going to come along, just like Cash said. You know, I don't believe in putting a player that's struggling so bad in that number 4 spot. I think that's a dumb move. I think you need to put him down the bottom of the lineup and work his way back up. I think that's what's killing this lineup, personal opinion. But, you know, for a lot of people that are doubting on Lau, or is it Lau? It's Lowe. It's
Lau. It's Lau.
No,
Brennan,
it's Lau. I know.
Brennan Lau, Josh Lowe.
Yes. The
conundrum.
conundrum.
But Lau. I think Cash needs to adjust some things. A couple more things. I promise, Peter. I'm gonna get out of here. I promise. This is like the best time I've ever called.
We got Jason Powers coming on here in a couple minutes, so don't make him wait now. Yes, go ahead.
Two more things. I promise. Number one, well, like I said, I did want to compliment the the entire lineup. I think Cash has some bullpen managing issues that need to be resolved. I don't like the way that game was managed on the blow of McClanahan's start. I believe you shouldn't have put Guerrera in. I believe that was an unproven biggest mistake he's made this season so far. Why would you stick an unproven player that continues to walk, continued guys game after game, and you left him long enough to continue to blow 4 more runs on that scoreboard? I think that's my issue. Why did you not put Jason, or was it Jason? No, Poche. A lot of people are hating on Poche. Poche's been doing better. He's been coming around along. Why wasn't Poche? Jason Adam came in and gave 3 more. Beeks came in. I think Beeks came in. Was it Beeks or Adam? Beeks or Adam came in and gave 3 straight innings. Why are you putting an unproven guy in those tough situations, which, by the way, got DFA'd the very next day?
Yep.
It's a good point.
I was just about to say, you have to worry about that problem anyway. He got DFA'd, and Beeks got sent down to bring up Fairbanks, too. So he got sent down to the minors as well. Fairbanks is activated.
I promise I'm going to go. Last thing I promise I'm going to go.
Okay.
What is your thoughts on the stadium deal? You think that's going to stay in St. Pete or what? I always ask anybody that talks Rays that comes on here that question.
You know what, Alex? At this point, it's been a record that just keeps spinning and spinning. And at this point, just get the fucking thing done. That's where I'm at right now. I've just gone through this whole thing for the last I don't know how many years.
St. Pete, though, based off everything we know.
You know what? I would prefer them to be in Tampa because it's the bigger market, and you could be around. You know, you could have that trifecta of the Lightning and the Bucs, and you have the Rays there. But
where's the money?
Yeah, it's just about the money thing. It's all political too. But at this point, after the whole dog and pony show with the split season bullshit plan, or the sister shitty plan that Stu did with the Montreal thing, at this point, thank you, Peter. I think at this point, just get it done so we can just stop talking about it, because my ears are bleeding just like each and every year. Oh, where's the stadium? The stadium.
At the end of the season, do you think at the end of the season Stu will sign a dotted line in St. Pete?
I hope so. I mean, he said at the end of the season, if the deal doesn't get done, then there's no deal. So we'll see.
I mean, I think he wants the redevelopment money. All right, man. Alex, I appreciate the call. Go ahead and use that second call if you want to, my friend. Yeah. On that note, because we're talking stadium, let's get you out of here on this. Go ahead and promote your podcast as always. And we will not, you're not going to be a stranger on this show. It's not the last time you're on the Sports Web. Once again, Al Bushman, thanks a lot for your time. Go ahead and promote this podcast.
Thanks, Pete. Yeah, just go on Spotify or the Believe Podcast Network and search Rays Rewind. We have new episodes that drop every Tuesday morning, so get your questions or comments in. You can follow me on Twitter at the L Bushman if you have any questions or comments for the podcast, because we love answering your questions. May they be silly or serious. So, yeah.
Love it. Good stuff there. Thanks a lot for your time, Al Bushman, here on the evolution of Sports Talk Television. And, of course, go Rays.
Go Rays. Thanks, Pete. Have a good one.
All right, buddy. There you go. See you later right there. Let's go out to these comments, and then we'll get out to Jason Powers. It won't be too long. Jason, stand by. Christopher Cole says, hey, guys, it's beginning to look a lot like football season. We'll get into the schedule. Again, the question was raised out there and brought to your attention. How many wins do you see with this schedule? 727-255 0391. It's 727-255-0391. The other number, in case you can't get through, 727-409-7528. Again, 727-409-7528. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Roger Shue says, first, we'll acknowledge
me.
Christopher Cole, the national media, is just saying that we're going to go 4-13 just because we don't have Brady. I understand that if it's Brady, but one player doesn't make a team. Heck, Brady was a part of the problem last year. Agree with you.
Yeah.
Mickey says, you're right, Christopher Cole. It's a team game. Christopher, again, I just don't understand the national media because Evans has been breaking wide receiving records ever since he came into the league and not a peep. With that being said, let's get out to Jason Powers. Powers on Sports Podcast, No Quarter Given Podcast on the BuckPower.com network. How you doing, my friend? And lots of talk about the schedule. Of course, it was released on Thursday night. We did about 3 hours of that schedule release show. What did you think of it when you first saw it? Welcome to the Sports Web.
Peter Blake, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, buddy. And also Spectrum Sports, a Spectrum Sports superstar here, personality on with Roy Cummings, who we will try to get him on the Evolution here pretty soon. So congratulations to you, man. But you look at this schedule, you know, the first 4 games, you got the Vikings on the road. You got the Bears, who are an improved team at Raymond James. Once again, another 1 o'clock game. All these basically 1 o'clock games. Philadelphia on Monday Night Football. And then you got New Orleans. You go to New Orleans, and then you get a bye week. And then after that, Jason Powers, you come home, play the Lions, the Falcons, and then you have a gauntlet of road games at the Bills, at the Texans. It's still a road game. Texans young, still a road game. Then you come home, play the Titans, at the 49ers, at the Colts. Come home and play the Panthers, at the Falcons, at the Green Bay Packers. Your thoughts?
Rough road to hoe. To me, the schedule gets broken into 2 big segments. You got 4 out of the first 6 at home, and then you got 6 out of the next 8 on the road. So it's imperative for the Bucs to get off to a good start because the odds of when you have 6 out of 8 games on the road, I mean, you're not going to win them all. If you can go 500 on the road during that stretch is great. Maybe 5-3, maybe 4-2, but it's going to be a tough road to hoe. So it's imperative that the Bucs get off to a good start. Obviously, you got Minnesota, Chicago early. Then you got the AFC South later in the year, and then obviously you got Detroit, Green Bay later on during the year as well. So critical that the Bucs, if we're going to have a winning season, get off to a good start. I think you got to somehow, some way be 4-2 at the end of 6 games.
Yeah, and I tell you right now, a lot of people saying, they could be 1-3 and Todd Bowles could be fired. Or if Baker Mayfield is the starting quarterback, that's when you switch to Kyle Trask. I'm trying to be, eternally optimistic about this, Leo Word, when it comes to this, because, the Vikings, yes, they won a lot of games last year, but it doesn't always translate to the year, next. The defense wasn't that good. I still feel like this Tampa Bay Buccaneer team has talent. Whether whoever is starting at quarterback at the end of the day, you still got Mike Evans, you still got Chris Godwin, you still have Vita Vea, and of course you got Devin White, not necessarily playing with the new contract, but still have him on this team.
Yep.
The point of the matter is, I think national media acts like, you know what? They're in a rebuild phase, and they're not rebuilding because they still have talent, they still have Pro Bowlers. So who's to say that they're not like the Seattle Seahawks in that everybody was ruling them out when they lost Russell Wilson, right? They traded him away. It's a rebuild. And then all of a sudden, quarterback coach Dave Canales turns around Geno Smith. Geno Smith has a Pro Bowl year. And you have the Seahawks making the playoffs, surprising everybody.
Here's what I will say that with the thing with the Seahawks, why they were such an impact last year, their draft class was unbelievable. The rookie draft class that they drafted 2 tackles who played. They found a really good corner in the 5th round. 5 or 6 of their draft picks were major contributors. So if the Bucs are going to have a year like this draft class, who a lot of people are going to have to be productive and major factors. It doesn't have to be all starters, but there have to be some major contributors if this Buccaneer team is going to surprise. Because if you're honest with yourself, we have players. Every team has good players. We have we've got some older players, but we've got some good guys in their prime as well. The bottom part of the roster, the younger part of this roster is going to have to play well for the Bucs to be a competitive, contending team.
All right, Jason Powers, what do you make of this story from DraftKings Sportsbook? They released the odds of all the 17 regular season games, and it appears Vegas does not have a lot of faith in Tampa Bay. In fact, one game all year long that the Bucs are favored in. Is this a good thing for them? Because now you're not in the national spotlight.
Yes.
You don't playing a lot of primetime games. You may be able to catch somebody sleeping. Is this fair for draft? I get it, it's Vegas. There's nobody can control it. They usually are the majority of the time correct. But are you surprised by these odds? One game out of 17 favored by the Bucs.
They've got a tough schedule. I mean, if you really look at their schedule, their schedule is tough. They with the NFC West that they're playing, with Buffalo, San Francisco, Philadelphia, non-divisional games. Again, they've got a little break that with the AFC South. Again. If the Bucs are going to make some hay in the schedule, they've got to go 3-1 in that AFC South matchups. They played all 4 teams in that division. Tennessee's beatable. Indianapolis is rebuilding. Houston's rebuilding. Jacksonville is not. You would expect Jacksonville to be favored, but again, those are just odds. And remember, it's May 15th, guys.
Yeah.
It's not August. Let's wait till we know what the rosters are going to be. Let's make sure everybody gets through training camp. We know who the starting quarterbacks are going to be. And all that stuff. I wouldn't put too much hay into that, because every year in this league, as you know, Peter Blake, 4 or 5 teams elevate that aren't supposed to be great, and 4 or 5 teams that we think are going to be much better than they are decline. You typically get 5 or 6 new playoff teams every single year in the NFL between the 2 conferences. So there'll be 2 or 3 teams in the NFC that rise that we don't expect. Hopefully the Bucs are one of those teams, and vice versa. So again, I wouldn't put too much hay into that. Again, it's May. They've got to fill up time doing something. So they're always gonna,
All right, we're on with Jason Powers on Sports Podcast. No Quarter Given podcast on the Buck Power podcast.
What do you think of the schedule?
I mean, for me, I'm going to go with my guy, Harry the Greek, because he's a professional handicapper extraordinaire who's hitting like 88% on the majority of years. He says 10 wins. I'm an eternal optimist. Wow. I'm going to go with 9 to 10 wins. I'm going to tell you why. Because I expect Baker Mayfield to be the starting quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Furthermore, Jason Powers, I expect him to turn it around, a la going back to 2020, a la Geno Smith from last year, because Dave Canales is the offensive coordinator, because they're putting such an onus and an emphasis on the run game. And if you have that run game, you're going to be able to go down the field with a Mike Evans, a Chris Godwin, possibly a Gage, maybe a Palmer breaks out with that speed because he had like 3 catches for 70 yards in college. I get it. It's a tough transition to the National Football League. But just thinking out loud, I like the way the offensive line is constructed. I like the fact that they're so much into this running game at the end of the day. It takes the pressure off the quarterback. If Baker or Kyle, and I think it's going to be Baker, if Baker doesn't make those decisions of throwing interceptions, I think this team is going to be in good shape, and I could see 9 to 10 wins. I really could.
Here's the couple things people always want to overlook that takes time. I don't care where a guy's coming from, it takes time to learn a new system. The Bucs have been used to the Byron Leftwich, Bruce Arians system for 4 years. It takes time to go from a brand new type of offensive scheme, philosophy, learning the terminology, learning the ins and outs of these offense. You have new quarterbacks that have never been in this offense before. It's not like quarterbacks have been in this offense coming from somewhere else. That's an overlooked thing that I think fans just think, oh, we just snap our fingers and we're running all cylinders. That's not the way it works. You're going to have a couple of new offensive linemen. By the way, I saw Luke Gedeke out tonight putting in some work. So let's give a shout out to Luke Gedeke. Saw him out tonight.
Save that thought, because I tell you what, we got my co-host coming on here. Let me go ahead and get his walk-up music on. Here we go. Harry the Greek, professional handicapper extraordinaire at 1252 Chicago Sports. Welcome to the Evolution. You're on with yours truly, along with Jason Powers. Powers on Sports Podcast. What do you have to say tonight, my friend?
I felt my ears were burning for a second there, and I was like, I better call in.
Well, why were your ears burning? Because I was saying Baker Mayfield is going to be the starting quarterback, or that I agree with my co-host, professional handicapper extraordinaire of 1252 Chicago Sports, that the Bucs could have 9 or 10 wins. Which was it?
It combination of both. I mean, I about fell over when you said the word agree, because you and I are like water and oil lately.
That's true. That's true. Me and Jason are the same
how
way.
are you, sir? You know,
Harry the Greek, how you doing, buddy?
Not too bad, my brother. Not too bad. Having a good time playing in this poker tournament all day long.
I want to know, did you win? That's what I want to know. Are you taking home the bag? Did you get the money tonight?
I got a bag, but it's not the bag that I wanted, unfortunately.
Okay.
Aces don't always hold up, guys. Okay.
All right.
I can attest to that, Harry the Greek, too, buddy. My aces have been cracked many a times.
You know, these aces hold up. I'd be the chip leader right now, and I just so happened to go against the chip leader, and it was very unfortunate. Very, very, very unfortunate. But anyway, yeah, I do think that this team's going to win 10 games this year. I mean, could they win 9 or 10? That's fine. Let me be very transparent when I say this.
Mm-hmm.
There's always teams that come from the cellar, and they end up doing a lot better. Teams like Detroit from last year.
Yep.
They didn't make it to the playoffs. They should have, but they didn't. They got very unlucky. And they may not be the greatest example. Let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. Everybody thought they were going to finish in last place last year in their division. Other than me.
Talk about the New York Giants.
Division.
Yeah, New York Giants. I mean, that's another story. I mean, again, the Seattle Seahawks. I think that's the example that the Bucs are trying to go on at the end of the day. For me,
well, there's a reason for me saying this.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, teams that usually and generally have the harder schedules before the season starts ends up being the total opposite. Okay? They're going to be playing a first place schedule. It's not the most formidable schedule for them. You know, on paper, it doesn't look that good. But some of these games that you think, that's a loss. Oh, that's a loss. Oh, that's a loss. Trust me, those are games that they're probably going to win. It's the teams that they're supposed to beat, like the Falcons, like the Panthers.
Yep.
Those are the teams they're going to have to concentrate and beat. With that being said, I think they get that job done. I think they win this division this year primarily because, A, they're a better football team. They haven't lost the core of their nucleus, the nucleus of their core players yet. You still have Godwin, you have Evans, and you have that running the football mentality. And if they play defense this year like I think they're going to, boy, I'm telling you, the Bucs are going to shock some teams this year because everybody's writing them off. Jason?
I'm with you. I think the key is the trenches. If the Bucs can create that offensive line, that strength and that mindset of we're going to be a good running team that has the ability to throw the ball, to me, it's going to be the trenches. If the offensive and defensive lines are better than we think they can be, then I think the Bucs are going to have enough skill players and enough guys on the back end, defensive back-wise, to compete. But if the offensive and defensive lines don't compete well enough, if the Gettykes aren't good enough, if whoever the left guard's going to be, you know, I know they're talking about Matt Filer. Well, Matt Filer, I know everybody's raving about Matt Filer, but the Chargers didn't bring Matt Filer back for a reason.
Right.
Listen,
Matt Filer's been on a lot of teams in his career for a reason.
Can't stay healthy.
No, listen, man, the guy's average, but I will tell you one thing he's exceptional at, and that is run blocking.
I agree.
Pass protection is going to be a little bit suspect, but then again, excellent run blockers with selective passing opportunities usually have very, very good offensive lines statistically throughout the course of the year. This team struggled last year because they wanted to throw the ball. I mean, Jason, I probably, you've seen me stand on my soapbox talking about how the team just didn't run the ball effectively last year. Right. Not that they didn't do it effectively, they just didn't run the football. They passed 750 times last year and ran 350.
Yep. And again, here's what I'll say, and you know this, Harry, from scouting this league for many years. This is a passing league now, which means you can run the ball, but you're not going to be able to run the ball in this league 60% of the time. You're going to be in the 50 to 53% of the time, probably max, that you can run the ball. You're still going to have to throw the ball at least 30 times a game. Say what we want. We all have a grandeur ideas of a running game, but you're still going to have to throw the ball minimum 30 times a game.
Yeah, and
I would agree with that statement 100%. If you didn't have a Mike Evans and a Chris Godwin, I don't think this team has to pass the ball 30 times a game. Any other team, I'm going to say absolutely, man. And I'll tell you why. Because these other teams that have to run the ball, like the Chicago Bears or even like the Baltimore Ravens, that have to continuously run the football, they don't have the skill set of receivers that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do. And trust me when I say this, you have to respect that run game, and they are going to put those wide receivers and those corners are going to be out on an island man-to-man. Good luck with that one. I can tell you that with this Tampa offense.
And remember, guys, the Bucs don't have the luxury that the Bears and the Ravens have. They don't have the quarterback that can be a runner too. Remember, 5 or 6, 7 runs a game from those teams are strictly called quarterback runs. The Bucs aren't going to be able to do that. So we're going to have to run the ball, traditional running game. And I just don't know if you – in a perfect world, you could run the ball 30 times every game. But defenses are good enough in the I formation in the spread without a running quarterback that the Bucs are going to still have to throw the ball, in my opinion, 30 times a game at least.
Well, I think Baker. I think Baker gives you more mobility.
No, he doesn't. He's not a spread runner. He's not a quarterback runner. Come on, Peter.
He's not a quarterback runner, but he has more mobility.
He thinks he does. He thinks he can outrun these guys, and he can't. That's part of his problem, honestly.
The guy is slower than molasses.
That's part of his problem is he thinks he can outrun these guys, and he can't.
Are those two quarterbacks slower than Tom Brady? I mean, come on, guys.
There's a big difference between Tom Brady and Lamar Jackson.
Well, I agree with you. I'm not saying he's Lamar Jackson. What I am saying is that he is a little bit more mobile than Tom Brady. We're on with Jason Powers. How many quarterback runs did Dave Canales call for Geno Smith? And Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield are about the same mobility-wise. I think
that would be 0.
I think Geno's a little bit better than Baker.
Okay, and how many QB runs did they call for Geno Smith? That would be 0.
It's a fair point. I mean, he had some mobility. He has a lot more mobility at the end of the day. I think they're going to incorporate that, and you don't have to necessarily be Lamar Jackson in order to be successful, be mobile. You roll out, you move the pocket, you do certain things that you couldn't necessarily do with the Tom Brady. That's where
my point is the running game. That was an essential part of the Bears and these quarterback run teams is they could have quarterback run 5 or 6 times a game. The Bucs aren't going to be able to do that.
I tell you right now, Harry, you look at this schedule, and Jason, you look at this schedule, you have the Houston Texans, right? They have a young quarterback, whether it's Davis Mills or CJ Stroud. That's a break. You're not sure what the Titans are going to do. You still have Derrick Henry there. Frisco, who's their quarterback? Is it Brock Purdy? I mean, he played well last year, but still a young quarterback. The Colts, is it Anthony Richardson by then? That's a young quarterback.
By the way, Brock Purdy destroyed us last year.
Well, that's true. You're exactly right. But
that was also game 1, and nobody had any tape on him. Let's see what happens.
I agree. But the Bucs will be a 7-point underdog minimum in San Francisco.
But the point is, San Francisco, you're not going to be
on the road.
There. But Carolina, you got Bryce Young. He's a young quarterback. Anthony Richardson possibly at that point. I mean, I think it's easy.
You know what? I'm not trying to be a smart ass here, but I'm taking wagers. Anybody want to bet me that the Bucs don't win the NFC South this year? I'll take any and all wagers.
Well, Alexander is not going to take your bet. He's barking in the background to not take the bet. I'm not taking your bet because I actually think they can win the NFC South and will win the NFC South. Even though I like Derek Carr and I do like what the Saints have done, I think they're going to be without Kamara. And I think the Bucs are going to catch a lot of teams out there napping. And I also believe
you're going to see something that I've noticed on tape from last year. And without surgery, I don't think it's going to get any better. But I want you guys to pay special attention to Derek Carr. He has the most difficult throwing to his left. And I mean, you can see the grimacing pain in his face. There is something up with the arm and or shoulder, and he has a real difficult time throwing to his left.
Yep.
Good luck, New Orleans.
I mean, to me, the key to this Buccaneer team, this schedule, I think, is the offensive line. If the offensive line can be solidified, obviously we know Jensen's back. If Wirfs can take the left tackle and if Gedeke can take the right tackle, that's going to give you the balance that you need to be able to run and throw. If the offensive line is a makeshift line, it's going to be 4-13 written all over it, 5-12 kind of season because they're going to struggle if they can't protect. And I still think, and I've told you this, Peter, I think Kyle Trask is going to get the first opportunity before Baker Mayfield personally.
And I'll bet you wings on it. It's going to be I bet you Baker.
And because to me, if it's tied, if it's an even battle through training camp, Kyle Trask is getting the first start, I think.
I'll bet you a plate of wings that Baker Mayfield is going to be the starter from game 1. Now,
I'll tell you this, Peter. If the Buccaneers don't start Baker Mayfield in week 1, he will be traded or he will be gone from the following year.
It's certainly possible because we saw how it all worked out in Carolina. Although, to be fair, he didn't have the playbook. He's going to have the playbook. He's going to be put in a better situation. But that's the big thing when he got signed. A lot of Bucs fans were worried about his attitude. If he's not the starting quarterback, how does it affect the locker room when we know that Todd Bowles is not going to put up with that nonsense at the end of the day?
Man. Great point.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Anything else here on the Evolution with yours truly, along with Jason Powers, Powers on Sports Podcast?
And here's what I'll say. And Harry knows this. I'll say this real quick before you go, Harry. That 6 out of 8 on the road stretch is brutal. I don't care how good your team is. Any team with 6 out of 8 games on the road, that is a rough road to hoe.
Yeah, it is.
In the early bye week, the whole 9 yards. It's I feel you, man. 10 wins is going to be hard to achieve this year, but I'm telling you now, this is the team. I think people are they're going to sneak up on some teams, and they shouldn't have to be sneaking up on teams. They still have a whole bunch of core players that can make it happen on offense. And Jason, I respectfully disagree. I don't think the offense you got to worry about this year. I think it's the defense.
Okay.
If that defense plays like I think it should, buddy, they're going to wreak some havoc in the NFC.
I agree. We got players. They just have to have a pass rush. If we don't get a pass rush, the DBs are going to get exposed.
It's wide open. Anyway, You guys have a really good night. Peter, Jason, great show, guys. Keep up the good work. We'll talk to you later, gentlemen.
All right, good stuff.
Don't fold those pocket aces now. Don't fold. Yeah.
All right, good stuff, Harry. Appreciate you. We'll see you on Wednesday night
with a 2-outer. So.
All right, my friend, great stuff. Let me go out to Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams, welcome to the Evolution. You're on with yours truly, along with Jason Powers, Powers on Sports Podcast. What do you think about the schedule released the other night? How many wins can you see with this team? Are you feeling positive? Are you feeling pessimistic? Say that 3 times. Welcome to the Sports Web.
Oh, man. First of all, what's up, my boy? What's going on, man?
What's going on? Say hi to Jason Powers.
Hey, Mr. Powers, what's going on? How you doing?
What's up, Mr. Williams?
Harry the Greeks.
Well, he's not here with us tonight.
Man.
Yeah, he's on the other line, though. He was on the line. He says 10 wins, Mr. Williams. Do you agree with him?
Yeah, man. Come on. Hey, man, when you get them wings, call me, man. I want to help you eat Harry the Greek wings. Okay?
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good, Mr. Williams.
Because there is no way I'm not going to win the South, okay? I need all of my division games won.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Powers.
We got to be realistic. I wanted the Bucs to win too. I want them to win every game, but you got to be realistic.
Yeah, right. I do agree with what you said, though. We got to protect, and my offensive line must hold up.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the toughest transition, Mr. Williams, and you're going to have to watch that take place in training camp.
We're going to have to lean on more of my defense this year.
Defense is a big-time key.
We all got to play together.
Yes.
We all got to play together this year.
I mean, remember, guys, we're going to have potentially 4 new starters on the offensive line. I know Wirfs is a starter, but new positions, 4 new position starters on the offensive line potentially.
Yeah, and you got Gedeke, who you mentioned. He may be your starting right tackle. You're not sure who's going to be the right tackle. Is it going to be Cody Mock? Is it going to be Hansey? You got Ryan Jensen coming off injury. He's coming back there. Who's going to be a left guard? So lots of question marks. Is it going to be Matt Filer? I mean, there's lots of questions. To me, to tell you the truth, gentlemen, that's probably the most exciting thing to watch is this offensive line because you have so many physical guys, so many I just would say big uglies, right? They're going to be road graders.
Yeah, right. Especially that guy that don't got no teeth in his mouth.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Ryan Jensen or like Cody Mock. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's going to be a starter.
You think he's going to be a starter? Jason Powers, do you agree with Mr. Williams that he makes that transition over to the right guard spot, and that's the reason why Jason Light drafted him in the second round there?
Again, going from North Dakota State to blocking the likes of Fletcher Cox and company and guys in Dallas and Buffalo and all, it's not easy.
Good point.
Can he do it? Yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's from a good program, but it's always a transition for offensive linemen from college to the National Football League. The technique, especially in pass blocking, guys can be good run blockers young, but pass protection is where identifying all these schemes and games that these defensive linemen run, those are the things that get young offensive linemen in trouble.
And you always think of Alex Kappa on his transition, right? I mean, not right away. The first couple of years very rough, and then he was able to get his feet.
Even Ali Marpet wasn't great in year one.
You're
exactly
right.
From
Yeah.
the Chargers,
Right.
he couldn't stay healthy, so the Chargers did not bring him back for a reason.
I mean, well, the Chargers brought back their coach for no reason. I mean, who knows what that organization is doing? I mean, I'm going to give it a chance. I agree with Jason. There's a reason why they let him go.
And there's a reason why the Bucs signed him so late in free agency. It's not like he was signed early in free agency either.
Correct. But he's been a starter in this league. They see something. It's going to be a healthy competition. That's why I say on this show, I'm excited to see what that competition and how it's going to work out in training camp, Mr. Williams and Jason.
Not right. Doing preseason, to me, whoever moved the ball better, what I think, that's who's going to be my starter.
So you're talking about quarterback here, to you, and we've heard Jason Light talking on local radio station 95.3, saying they're going to split the reps up not only in training camp, but you would say
split the reps,
in the game situation. So I mean, I think it's going to be key. I think again, that's one of the competition. I mean, Mr. Williams, where do you lie here? Is it Baker Mayfield for you, or is it Kyle Trask?
Hey, I would like to see Kyle get his start, man.
Okay.
I really would, but if he's not protecting this ball when it's his time in preseason, I say,
There's only one guy who has a history of not protecting the ball, and that's Baker Mayfield.
That's true. I mean, Baker Mayfield has lots of interceptions. Yeah, he has lots of interceptions at the end of the day. I mean, that's the big time question mark. But with all the interceptions,
he can get the ball down there.
He can get the ball down there. He can make all the throws. You don't know what Kyle Trask can do. You only seen it in college, where he played at a Heisman level, if you will. He really did for the Florida Gators, and we'll see it.
Yeah, and he played in probably maybe 3 or 4 preseason games.
Yeah, and it wasn't pretty, right, Jason? It wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
So, and it wasn't pretty for the 9 snaps there against the Atlanta Falcons. But again, that game didn't mean anything. You're going to be able to see, the competition is on now.
But now, the South, we're going to win the South, and we're going to get us another banner, man.
All right. I like it, Mr. Williams. Anything else?
All right. Hey, Harry, we're going to enjoy the wings, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm already going to enjoy steak and wings from Harry because he already lost a bet. Mr. Williams, thanks a lot for the call. Appreciate you. All right, buddy?
Yes, sir.
All
man.
See you, Mr. Williams.
Man.
I love you too, man. I love that guy. He always calls in. He always brings it. Excuse me. What I did there. We're on the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with Jason Powers. Powers on Sports Podcast. Also do another podcast called what again, Mr. Powers?
No Quarter Given. We're going to do here. We're going to either this week or next week. We're going to do a post-draft schedule review podcast for all the Buck fans. Remember, go to No Quarter Given, part of the buckpower.com podcast network. You can find it on Apple, Spotify, Google, all the podcast places, or buckpower.com for all. Again, we're going to break down the schedule in depth. We're going to break down the roster. We're going to break down the draft picks. So No Quarter Given, you and I, Peter Blake.
Absolutely. My tag team partner of the world in the buckpower.com podcast network, Paul Stewart. Heck of a job. Uncle TJ Reeves helps us out with it also. How surprised were you, Jason Powers, that the Bucs actually got some primetime games? Because not only did we hear from Peter King that he felt like, in his opinion, the Bucs were the 31st ranked team in all of the league, but also that possibly they would, take that rule and say, you know what, the Bucs don't need to be on prime time, and yet the Bucs do have 2 primetime games, one on Monday Night Football versus the Philadelphia Eagles, and the other on Thursday Night Football versus the Buffalo Bills. How surprised were you that they got those primetime games?
Yeah, I mean, I figured most everybody in the league is going to get at least one game. I think there's only a couple teams that didn't get one primetime game. To get 2 is a little surprising, especially a home game against the Eagles on Monday night. I figured if it was going to be a Monday nighter, we'd be on the road like they are in Buffalo, but good for them. There's a healthy, again, the Bucs still have some cachet with, even though Brady's gone, you still got some cachet. Like you've mentioned, we've still got some, big players that are part of that have been part of the future or the past several winning seasons here for the Bucs. So yeah, a little surprising. Again, I think there's some intrigue with what will the Bucs do post Brady. Again, interesting year for Todd Bowles, and let's give Todd Bowles credit, going back and getting his degree over the weekend, graduating with his class. Good for Todd Bowles.
Amazing.
In all seriousness,
Get this, Jason Powers. He's fulfilling a 37-year-old promise to his mother. Completed his work last September for a Bachelor of Science degree in Youth and Community Development. Of course, his mother, Todd Bowles' mother, Joan, died of cancer in 2009. So good for Todd Bowles. We'll get back to Bowles in a moment, but you weren't the only one that didn't. You liked it. You didn't. You were kind of surprised by it, but this guy really hated it. In fact, the GM shuffle with Mike Lombardi and Femi Abife, and this is in care of Joe Bucs fan. Lombardi says, I don't know. I have no idea. That's a shocker with the Bucs getting the primetime games. And also Abife said they're a small market team with no quarterback. And they are, second team in the division. And now Tom Brady is retired for good. And then he also goes on to say, it just makes 0 sense. 0 cents. I don't know what the hell the league was thinking by doing that one. Who wants to watch this team unless you're a Bucs fan? Nobody
Here's
wants.
What I'll say. Yep. Go ahead.
It's Baker Mayfield. It's Kyle Trask. Maybe Kyle Trask is good. Hopefully he is, because that's the one to watch for the Bucs. We at least need some good quarterback play to make it entertaining. Your thoughts?
Couple things to remember. This is probably partially why the Bucs are prime time this year, and a year that many people think the Bucs are going to be down, is the willingness for the Bucs in previous years to play overseas, London, Germany. So this is kind of a pat on the back to thank you for doing that from the NFL, and we're going to give you a little prime time exposure for the accommodation you've done for us over the years. So I think that's part of it too, is that the Bucs have been very willing to play in London and in Germany like they did last year. So I think that's part of the equation too, that the NFL is kind of thanking the Buccaneers behind the scenes for doing that stuff.
Well, that's a good point. That's definitely a good point. And not only with Todd Bowles going back and getting his degree, that didn't stop 33rd team's Ryan Reynolds was saying the Buccaneers are open up with a difficult 4-game stretch to start the season. They could easily go 1-3 entering into their Week 5 bye. If the Buccaneers get off to that disastrous start, their early bye week presents an opportunity for a coaching change. Bowles is to continue to be the first coach fired. I mean,
they're not doing that. They're not doing that.
You're talking about this kind of. I don't see that happening. The Bucs have never done that in their entire history. Give credit to where credit is due. If the Titanic is going down, the Glazers will let that ship go down, and they won't fire the coach mid-year or the beginning of the year. They'll take care of it at the end of the year. And
you really, when you look at this staff, you really don't have anybody that can be the head coach, in all honesty. Dave Canales, the first-time OC, they're not going to make him the head coach. If Bowles were to get fired, who are you going to pick on the defensive side of the ball to be the head coach? There really isn't anybody there that's got previous head coaching, a lot of head coaching experience, anything like that. Here's what the bye week in Week 5 will allow the Bucs to do if they are 1-3. Make a quarterback change.
Well, that's
4 weeks. 4 weeks will be enough of a sample size for either guy, no matter who wins the job. If the Bucs are 1-3 or 0-4, that's the time you make the quarterback change.
Do you look at the schedule and say 1-3?
No, I don't. I think they can go 2-2. Again, at Minnesota is going to be tough, but you got to beat the Bears at home. Week 3, Philadelphia is probably not going to be a win. Who's in week 4, Peter?
You've got I just lost my schedule here. You've got the New Orleans Saints, who
again tough game.
Tough game. It's in New Orleans.
Yep. I mean, there's 1-3.
Right.
I mean, if you can be 2-2, it'd be a great start to the year. But if you're 1-3 or 0-4, and the quarterback position is not playing well, that's the perfect time you can make the change.
All right, let's go out to the win total projections by NFL.com. They have the Bucs under 6.5 at 140, making the playoffs plus 400, winning the division plus 800, win the conference 3,500 plus, and win the Super Bowl plus 8,000. They also say the New Orleans Saints are the more likely team to win the division at 8.9 wins, getting a face pair. Getting inexperienced quarterbacks, the Panthers and the Packers, Jordan Love in week 3. Early in the season, increases for novice quarterbacks to settle in. Interesting, the Saints reflect how many NFC South showdowns projects as a 50-50 games. They say Atlanta with 8.7 wins, and they say Tampa Bay with 6.4. I'm looking for the Panthers. They have the Panthers with 7.9 wins. That's with Andy Dalton and Bryce Young. That's how much
it's going to be Bryce Young. There ain't no Andy Dalton. It's going to be Bryce Young.
Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers are 1 or 2 more wins better than the. Come on, man. That's nonsense. That is complete nonsense.
This guy. But here's what you got to remember, Peter, when it comes to the roster, with all the dead cap money that the Bucs are taking a hit on this year, there's going to be 10 to 12 first and second year players that are going to make this team, whether we want to believe that or not. Undrafted free agents, rookies, there's going to be a lot of young players, rookie players on this active roster. And that's the part that makes you concerned is again, if the top 22 all play, I think we got a decent team, but you and I both know depth will be an issue this year with the youth that will be on this roster from a salary cap perspective. If the quality veteran players do get hurt.
All right, this from Bucs Nation, the top 3 players the Bucs could miss out on. Do you have any thoughts on this? Do you have any rankings on it? Because I'll give you the players off of Bucs Nation, and you see if you agree or you don't agree. The number 1 player the Bucs are going to miss out on is Mike Edwards. He became a full-time starter for the first time in his career last season. Me too.
Totally disagree.
Where do you see that at? Because I felt like, and again, he finished with a career-high 82 tackles, provided Tampa Bay with another 2 interceptions. I get it. He had a pick 6 versus New Orleans early, but he was also burned a lot. And the reason why he earned that first starting spot is because he takes so many chances all the time, and those chances don't pay off.
Sneaky good signing. The free safety we got from the Seattle Seahawks. I think Ryan Neal. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
That's a sneaky good signing, a 1-year deal. A guy Canales knows he was pretty productive in Seattle last year. Was surprised Seattle let him go, but that's a sneaky good signing. No, Mike Edwards, that's number 1 on their list, really?
Number 1 on their list, yeah. Number 1.
That's terrible. That's just lazy.
Yeah, I agree with you on it. And I don't understand it. Somebody has to explain it to me. The number 2 player that the Bucs are going to definitely miss out on this year is who?
To me, it's got to be Tom Brady.
It's not. It's Ryan Suckup. They say
no.
He went 2 for 7 on field goals or over 40 or over 50 yards. Of course, missed 2 kicks inside of 50 yards. But they say he's steady Eddie, very consistent when it comes to 40 yards. For me, I think there's a big time question, right? I mean, there's a big time question mark because Suckup was so good and so accurate. But there are limitations to him. So are you going to really miss out on him? You're a kicker. Yeah. What do you think of the transition to go with Chase McLaughlin over Ryan Suckup? Are they going to really miss Suckup that bad in your opinion?
I don't think so. I don't think they will. I mean, I think McLaughlin's had a couple pretty decent years in Indianapolis. Again, if this was a championship level team, then maybe you're a little more concerned. But I think with this team being in where they're at in their development, having Chase McLaughlin at the price that they're getting him at, saving them a couple $1 million relative to Suckup, is going to be fine. If McLaughlin doesn't do the job in training camp or struggles, whatever, early in the year, then there's other guys to be had out there. I don't think that's going to be a major issue for the Buccaneers this year.
All right, and the third player is Tom Brady at the end of the day. And I feel like, listen, you're going to miss out on his leadership qualities, but I think he took a step back last year. Furthermore, I think this team was distracted along with him. He didn't play his best football. I think he's done. I don't necessarily think you're going to miss out on him. In fact, I put it out there. I think the Bucs are actually going to be a better team without him because you're not going to have it. I do. You're not going to have as much noise as you had last year. The first 2 years, okay, I'm willing to buy it. Last year, very pedestrian Jason Powers.
Okay, but he was 40. Yeah, I get it. But if Tom Brady said, I want to play today, would you take Tom Brady or Baker Mayfield today?
Today,
honestly,
with all the distractions that you had?
No, now the distractions are over. He's divorced. Let's say he wanted to come back and play. Who would you take?
I think I'd probably still take Tom Brady.
Exactly.
Because of the focus on the run game.
Exactly.
But here's the problem with that. Would Brady allow that to happen? Would he allow that offense, or would he continue to have the same offense where he ran it in his own image? That's where I'm looking at, and that's where I say
probably you're probably right. I mean, that's an argument to be had, no doubt. I mean, that's the philosophical part of things. Is I'm talking about straight quarterback play. Would you rather have Tom Brady today, mind clear, divorce over, or Baker Mayfield? You and I both know the answer to that.
Yeah, we know the answer to that. All right. So what do you make of the mini camp? I know it's underwear football, but I mean, some things that came out of there. Of course, you got Sean Tucker out of Syracuse, who, by the way, was wearing number 44. Why is that significant, Jason Powers?
44. What is 44?
44
it's not WTOG 44.
No, it's not WTOG 44. It's W44, who I used to work for. No, that's not it, Jason Powers. The reason why number 44 is significant is because the great Jim Brown wore it at Syracuse.
All right.
The great, oh man,
Ernie.
I want to say Banks, but it's not Banks.
It's not Ernie Banks. Ernie Davis.
Ernie Davis wore the number. Floyd Little wore the number, and now he's wearing the number. Of course, a lot of fans out there excited because they got his as an undrafted free agent. Has not been medically cleared yet, but is looking to be medically cleared at the start of the Buccaneer full-time or full-team training camp in July. Do you think he makes some noise? Because still, you have those connections going on with Ezekiel Elliott possibly coming here. Skip Pete had some comments last week about Elliott taking less money. I think Jason Light has a type of football player, and I'll tell you why. Physical running back, 4th overall. Leonard Fournette was 4th overall in 2017. Ezekiel Elliott, 4th overall in 2016. You can get him for cheap. He can be that.
Apparently, you can't get him for cheap because he hadn't signed.
Well, he hasn't signed, but that's what I'm saying. You maybe can get him for cheap.
Here's what Zeke Elliott's going to do. As much as we want to think Zeke Elliott's coming, Zeke Elliott's going to hang out. He's going to stay. He's going to wait till a contending team loses a running back either in training camp or early in the year. He's not coming to a team that's not expected to contend. Sorry. He's going to wait till that injury happens. Dallas, San Francisco, Philadelphia, wherever that's a winning team. That's when Zeke Elliott's going to try to come in and save the day. He ain't coming to Tampa.
Do you see a second running back on this team? Is it Tucker if he can get medically cleared? Is it Keyshawn Vaughn? Is it a Chase Edmonds, or is it somebody we're not talking about? I'll throw this out there just because we're Florida State fans, and he could be cut by June.
Too expensive.
Dalvin Cook probably headed
way too expensive. He ain't coming here. No, they've made it clear they like Rachaad White. So I think they want him to be the bell cow. And we're going to have a second guy, and I think the second guy is either going to be Edmonds, and then the third guy is going to be either a Tucker or a Keyshawn Vaughn. That Tucker could win that job potentially because of salary situation. Vaughn's in his 3rd or 4th year now. He's making as much money as he's going to make in his rookie contract. Maybe they get rid of Keyshawn Vaughn and save $1 million and bring in Sean Tucker or a third running back. But I think Edmonds has proven he can be a decent player, not a bell cow, but I think they like Rachaad White. I think they want Rachaad White to see what he can do.
I like Rashard White too. I just know you need 2 running backs in
Yeah.
this league in order to go. So I think there's some uncertainty there. And if the Bucs are able to free up money, I think some of those
The
running backs.
Bucs are not going to be adding veteran, expensive players. This is not the year they're going to do that.
Right.
This is the year they're going to be very That's why so many young players are going to make this roster, because it's minimal salary cap commitments. They're not going out and bringing in a $5 million skill player unless he's a pro. Again, there won't be any Pro Bowl guys out there. But if a guy gets cut in June and he's an immediate need, maybe. But they're not. The Bucs just don't have the salary cap space to go invest a 3-year, $15 million deal into somebody. They just can't do it.
They really don't have that money at the end of the day. Let's go out to Cole here from I Love St. Pete. The safety they signed was 1 year or number 1 according to Pro Football Focus. Suckup will be missed. I don't believe they get better there, and I think that's probably. And I get it. It's a kicker, but it's still important for this fan base. It's still important for this team because we've seen plenty of games, Jason Powers, that you get costed because your kicker is not accurate enough. What do you make of these 2 rookie wide receivers in the Trey Palmer, who, by the way, said in his press conference he doesn't think he's fast enough at 4.33, which the Bucs haven't had a wide receiver like that since, I don't know, Scotty Miller, but it seems like that's blazing speed. And then Cade Warner, of course, the son of Kurt Warner, says he's the smartest wide receiver in this draft class. You like the kid's confidence?
Sure. I mean, this is these guys all want to be professional players. Again, when it comes to the wide receiver position, the 2 things that get overlooked. It looks great when you're running in t-shirts and shorts 4.33. Do you have that same kind of speed in pads? Can you block somebody, and can you run good routes? Because it doesn't matter how fast you are. If your route running's bad, DBs can know what's coming and they can cover it. I don't care how fast you are. You got to be able to run routes. And again, it's the running the intermediate stuff. It's running the right depths on these routes. It's running 12 yards, not 10 yards. It's running, whatever the route is. Can you run good routes? Because these DBs know what the hell they're doing at corner, and they can cover speed. But it's difficult to cover guys that can get in and out of breaks.
Well, and going back to Palmer, he has all the speed and all the potential you want, but he's not consistent enough. 10 drops last year in college football.
Can you catch the ball? Exactly.
Can you catch the ball consistently? Now, there is a quarterback, a former Super Bowl, not winning quarterback, but a former Super Bowl quarterback that is using CBS, Matt Ryan. What do you think of him? Can he rival a Tony Romo? Matt Ryan as an analyst, does that work in your opinion? I mean, I'm thinking of it. Like, Matt Ryan is not a talkative guy. Can he be the next Tony Romo? Can he be the next Greg Olson, in your opinion? I mean, I don't think they Tom Brady, and we're not talking about Tom Brady. We're talking about freaking Matt Ryan as an analyst. What do you say?
I don't think they said he's going to be on a broadcast. I think he's going to be in the studio and doing different stuff studio-wise. I'm not sure he's going to be doing games.
Analyst, yeah.
I'm not sure he's going to be doing games, but if he does, yeah, I mean, quarterbacks typically do a pretty good job with games because they know these defensive schemes. They know pass protections. They're able to identify formations pretty well. I mean, Matt will do all right. I mean, again, it's if you're willing to criticize somebody, you got a chance to be good. And the one thing these good analysts do, the guys that we like, they're not afraid to call out somebody, good or bad, when they do, especially on the bad side, when they deserve the criticism. You got to be willing to do that.
And he also has to have a personality. And I've never thought, I think Matt Ryan's a smart guy, but is he going to be like Tony Romo? Like, what do you think of Tony Romo? Are you tired of him? Because there's a lot of fans. He got the big contract, and now, there's a lot of fans out there, a lot of executives calling him in and saying he's not doing enough research. I mean,
I like Tony. Does he talk a little too much? Probably. But Tony, you got to give Tony credit. He does a pretty good job. He's pretty entertaining. Again, He talks a little too much when it comes to formations and screaming out stuff. But I think he does a pretty good job. I mean, did we think Greg Olson had personality when he was a player? Not really.
Yeah.
Did Troy Aikman have a lot of personality when he was a player? Not really.
Let me ask you, and it's just switching gears here. We could talk some baseball really quick, and then I'll get you out of here, and then we'll talk some basketball because I got a specific player I want to get into. What do you think about the Rays and their injury situation? Are you concerned? They're 31-11. They just could have swept the Yankees, but are you concerned? Is the bullpen a concerning thing going forward for you, Jason Powers, with this team?
Here's what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
I saw a stat the other day. The last 5 years, the Rays are either first or second in all of Major League Baseball with year-ending Tommy John injuries.
That's crazy.
What makes me wonder is, what are we doing in the minor league system from a getting guys ready to pitch perspective?
Right.
Are the mechanics they're teaching, or the techniques, the training techniques that they're doing with the pitchers? What are they doing in the minor leagues that is causing these issues? Because we shouldn't be leading. I mean, again, that's not a great stat when you're 1 or 2 in Major League Baseball with Tommy John surgeries.
And you would think with the Rays and their specialization of using their bullpen so many times that they wouldn't have it. In fact, there was a stat thrown out there tonight by John Morsey, MajorLeagueBaseball.com, that says, the Rays starters have the lowest innings combined. They're going with the bullpen at the end of the day. And I remember,
analytics. That's
right.
That's your boy Cash. Third time through the rotation, it's time to get him out of there. That's the problem.
Well, but for me, it's never been. I go back to old school baseball. Did we have this many arm injuries? We had guys going 7, 8 innings. You never had this many Tommy John. So going back to what you were saying, it could be the way they're treating him in the minor leagues. It could also be weight training. I don't know what it is, but these pitchers, these players are supposed to be stronger, and yet they have more injuries. Make some sense of this, Jason.
Here's what it is. The mentality of all these pitchers is to throw the ball as absolutely hard as they can throw it every single pitch. The torque and the trauma on your elbow and your shoulder by doing that every single pitch, trying to hit 100. Whereas back in the day, if you hit 92, that was great. The great starting pitchers would throw 90%, and then once or twice or 3 times a game when they really needed that extra little oomph, then they would throw all out. These relievers and these starters are throwing the ball as hard as they can every single pitch. There's no taking a little bit off the gas pedal. That's what causes all the torque on your elbow and your shoulder when you're going all out every single pitch.
All right, and then finally here, Ja Morant, suspended again by the NBA. Suspended before because he had a gun and an IG post on social media, which, by the way, look, stay off social media. Tell your boys to shut down the IG live because it's not worth it, because you're blowing $231 million, Morant. Make some sense of this. Is this guy going to run himself out of the league with stupidity like this?
Oh, he's going to be sitting for a long time. Minimum 50 games.
I feel like he deserves a year. I mean,
he might. He very well could get a year.
And I don't know what's going to turn it around. And my dad used to say, because I used to do some stupid stuff, maybe not like this, but he said, son, when those lights turn on, you're going to be amazing. And I feel like, I don't know if those lights are ever going to turn on. And who do you blame? I mean, it's easy to blame the kid because he's 22?
No, it's the kid's fault. There's nobody else but the kid. The kid is number 1 on the list. Dad's probably number 2, but the kid is a clear-cut number 1. I don't want to hear, well, he's 23. He's played in the NBA 4 years now.
Right.
He knows better.
Why are your friends doing this? Like, why are your friends?
No, it ain't the friends. It's him.
But he had his friend, his boy had the phone and it was going live and then took it off real quick because
it's Ja Morant's account.
Right. It's so stupid, though. It's like, if we're friends, if you see me doing something stupid, Jason Powers, you're going to say, hey, Pete, I really think that's a smart thing to do with your career on the line, wouldn't you? If you're a real friend, you're not going to go along with the guy because he's making the most money, right?
Pete, when Ja's paying all the bills, Ja gets to. Ja was not trying to hide the gun. It wasn't like the gun was laying on the floor. It was in his hand and he was toting it.
He's putting it to his head. Like, how stupid are you?
Oh, he's stupid. No, there's no doubt. He's. And
I don't get it. Like, I don't get it, Jason Powers. I don't understand it.
The $230 million is one thing, but what he's going to lose, the Nike endorsement deal, the Powerade endorsement deal, that's going away.
Oh,
that's where you make the big money, is when you have the free money off the court for making some commercials. The on-court money is great. I get it. But the off-court money, that's where he's taking it in the keister by having the stupidity that he has. And he deserves it.
If you're the Memphis Grizzlies, and by the way, I've never seen a Grizzly in Memphis, by the way, but just saying, you know what kind of trouble he's getting into in that city, and that city has their fair share of troubles. Are you trying to trade him away for his sake? Try to get something back for him where his value is somewhat high. I mean, is that the case? Does it become a Des Bryant situation where he has to have a chaperone? Do you have to trade him out of Memphis and get him out of there in order for him to clean up his life? Or again, is he going to be a guy that we're sitting here talking about saying he could have been a superstar, but he's now out of the league, or he's in jail, or he's dead, or he killed somebody? Because you just never know when you're putting a gun in that situation. You just never know what can happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough deal for Memphis because one, we know what kind of player he can be on the court.
Right.
But again, how at some point you can't continue to tolerate the off the court. And again, Memphis their organization has not done the best job of surrounding him with all the veterans that you probably think he needs. He needs the older. They didn't have a lot of older guys on that team. If you know that Memphis Grizzly team, a lot of brash young guys. They didn't have Memphis did not do a great job, whether it was the coaching staff, the GM, whatever, didn't do a great job of sitting him down. And they've let Ja Morant run the franchise because he's the star player, and I get it to a degree. But again, they're not going to be able to trade him until they know what the suspension is going to be, one. And I don't think a team's going to trade for him until the suspension's over, two. I don't think Memphis is going to be able to trade him while he's still suspended because a team's not going to give up 50 games worth of an asset for something. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Here's what I want to see in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the LeBron Jameses of the world, the veteran guys in that league who know better, to call him out.
But they're not going to do it, and they should.
Some have. I'll give some guys, a couple guys have, but I want to see those guys call him out because that's what's going to get his attention as much as anything is when the LeBron Jameses and obviously Kobe's not around, but those kind of guys, the Shaqs, the Chuck Barkleys, those kind of guys crush him. Mm-hmm. Those are the kind of guys that will maybe get through to Ja Morant.
All right, let's read these comments and we'll get you out of here on this. My big prediction this year is that Tucker is a beast and better than people think. I think he could take the place of Vaughn in his sleep, and he could be the number 2 running back by midseason. Yeah. Wow. So Sean Tucker right there, undrafted free agent. That's
Let's make the team first, Sean. Let's make the team first.
All right, good stuff, Cole CSB brother. Ja took a cue from Jeter. He took the girls' phones from them on dates. Josh should say to his buddies, give me your damn devices. Only then can we go out? And you know who else had a problem with that? Johnny Manziel. And that didn't work out too well either for him because every time there was something that happened, somebody would be turning on a phone or he would be turning on a phone. And it's just bad. Social media makes you a damn target and you've got too much to lose. We are never going to make $231 million. We're never going to make $31 million. Hell, if we made $3 million or $300,000 a year, I would become a friggin' monk and stay in my house and not be on IG Live with a damn gun. Go to a rifle range if you want to shoot a rifle or gun.
Here's the sad part. From all indications I've heard, Stephen A. and different guys say this. He's trying to live a life that he ain't. He's trying to act like he's a gangster and a guy from the tough neighborhood, the tough part of town, trying to be Mr. Rough and Tough. And there have been players that have told him, guys that live that life that have told him, hey, Ja, you ain't that guy, so stop trying to be that guy.
Yeah, but why would you want to be that guy? You're an NBA superstar.
It's an image.
Stupid. You're an NBA superstar. Be an NBA superstar. I tell you what, who's a superstar tonight? Jason Powers on Sports Podcast. Go ahead and promote yourself here on the Evolution.
Powers on Sports Podcast. Check it out every week. We'll have an episode coming out probably Wednesday morning. Talking just stuff going on. By the way, how about Mark Jackson? Did you see that story? Mark Jackson, ABC broadcaster. I
didn't see that. What happened with him?
He leaves Nikola Jokic off of his top 5 MVP list. The only voter in all the guys that vote, Nikola Jokic is not one of the top 5 MVP candidates. And he has some lame excuse. Oh, I just, it was a mistake. And
if he's the best player in the league, he's the best player in the league. Whether he wins it 3, 4, 50 times in a row, he's the best player.
I'm not saying he's the best, but you can't leave him off the top 5.
Is he better than Joel Embiid right now?
Well, right now, but it's not a right now. It's not a right now vote. It's an 82 game vote.
Has he been the best player in the league this
I
year?
thought Embiid was the best player in the regular season this year, to be honest. But Jokic was no worse than second.
Do you have a chance to beat the Lakers, in your opinion?
Yes.
I hope they
Very
do.
good chance.
I don't want to see the Lakers in the finals again.
They got a good chance.
I don't want to see it. All right. And of course, the other podcast here we do together, the No Quarter Given podcast on the Buck Power Podcast Network. Get out of here. When are you going to be on Spectrum Sports again, superstar?
I don't know yet. Not this week, I don't think.
All right. Well, we got to go on.
I got to do a spring football game on Wednesday at Jesuit. All the high schools have their spring football jamboree before school gets out. Got going to Jesuit for Wednesday night.
You ready for that? Your season never ends, does it?
It's over Wednesday for about till September, till late August. And I got to get real quick. I got to give a shout out to my sister. My sister's retiring in 2 weeks from the Hillsborough County school system.
Nice. All right. Well, let's give her a horn.
30 years. She's put in 30 years. 30 years. So give her credit. Getting the hell out.
Yeah, that's amazing in itself. How was the Mother's Day? Was it good?
It was good. Yeah.
What you get something nice?
Yeah, I got some nice flowers. Not my mom is older now, so the gifts not so much. Good, a nice.
Why does that happen when you get older? You get less when you get older. What's all about?
It's not about getting less. It's hard to shop for your mom in her late 70s. You need things that are perishable. You can either eat them or they get thrown away after a few days. Flowers, gift cards, stuff like that to restaurants. Because you try to go buy mom a dress or this or that.
Oh, yeah.
They're not wearing it. Come on.
Oh, yeah. I found out the hard way. I tried to go and shop for my dad, get him, a nice polo, some nice shoes, really do it up.
They never like it.
He hated it. He couldn't wear it. The shoes were too small. They weren't big enough, or the shirt wasn't good enough. I was like, listen, I'm never doing this again. It was a nice thought process, and I love you, Dad. But seriously, it was a nice thought process, but just stick with the gift card. Keep it simple, stupid, especially for somebody that is so particular about.
Buy him a hat, buy him a Bucs hat or something like that.
Buy him a tie. It's buy him a tie with the card.
Don't buy him a tie.
Buy my dad
a Bucs shirt or a hat or something sports apparel related. Hey,
you got to be careful with that. It's got to be an adjustable hat. You got to know the size of the hat. I've done that before. I'm telling you, I went down this road before. Stick with the gift card or stick with. I
agree. As they get older, perishable things they can eat, flowers for mom that after 4 or 5 days they can get rid of, things they can get rid of and use up.
All right, good stuff. Jason Powers on Sports Podcast. Thanks a lot for your time on the Evolution. We'll see you next week. All right, my friend?
You got it, brother. See it.
All right, good stuff there. All right. We talked about John Morant. I mean, I don't know what else you can say. I can bury the kid all day long. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. You're blowing the shot of a lifetime, right? You're an NBA superstar. You have an opportunity to make $231 million. How many times do I got to say this? How many incidents off the court can you get away with until it costs you in the long run? Is it worth it? What's the priority? I get it. He's young. He's got everything to lose. He's a superstar. But when do those lights turn on? I always go back to it. My dad said, you did some bad stuff, but when those lights turn on, you're going to be amazing. Will those lights turn on for Mr. Morant? I'm not sure. Thanks a lot to all the guests tonight here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. Mr. L. Bushman of the Raise Rewind podcast. Definitely check that out. Of course, Jason Powers on Sports Podcast. Like and subscribe to the Sports Web on YouTube. Like I Love St. Pete, The Hub, and Amped Up Sports. And do 3 things for me on this Monday nights. 3 things. You ready? You know them. You love them. You got to have them. Bring your passion. Bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. I'm your host, Peter Blake, your Rolex reporter. What time is it? It's my time. And for the Tampa Bay sports fan, and of course, fans of the Sports Web, it's your time. Have a great night.